It's Friday afternoon. It's about 2:30, and you know what you need to do. Lesson plans. Ugh. If you're like me, you wait until the last minute to do lesson plans. Well, let's end that right now. Today, you are going to get 3 templates to make the lesson planning process go smoothly so that you have an effective plan for the week ahead. And stay to the end because I might just have a little something up my teacher sleeve, some tips and tricks and hacks to help with the organization. What do I have up my teacher sleeve here? Oh, yep, I knew there was something up my teacher sleeve. Are you ready? Here we go. Hi, my name is Angie, and I have done a lot of lesson plans in my life because I was in the classroom for 25 years. And so today we are talking about lesson plans. It's a request from one of the subscribers here at Teachers Making the Basics Fun. So today we're going to talk about lesson plans and how to make it go a little bit smoother. Because honestly, I did used to wait until the very last part of Friday to start doing my lesson plans. And mostly because, well, I wanted to see where my students were. What did we need to do for the week ahead? Did they master the skills that I needed them to master? And if not, what are we going to do next week? And if they did, what can we do to make this learning go faster? Now, you've already watched the curriculum mapping video that I did a couple months ago. If you haven't watched that, that is kind of the first part of this whole process so that you can get like a sky high view dun, 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 of your whole year. Where are your students going, right? We need to be thinking about that all the time and having that in the back of our minds. So that curriculum mapping is super important. And then we're going to start asking ourselves 3 questions. And the questions are, when am I going to do my teaching? What am I going to teach? What objectives, what skills do my students need? And how? How will I teach this objective, this skill? And how will I assess it? All right, let's go ahead and look at the very first template. And I bet you can guess what it is. It's the weekly plan. Let's hop over and take a look at an example of my weekly plan. Here we go. Okay, here we are at my weekly plan for kindergarten. Now, when I did my weekly plan, I wanted lots of room for writing. And I did it old school. I set out my template and I structured it so that I could just make copies of this and I could use it week after week after week after week because it really doesn't change. And I really divided my day into 2 sections. Some of you might not be able to do that. Some of you might not want to do that. But I really took the first part of my day to do reading activities and reading. And then the second part of my day, I used for math and science and social studies and the other things that we do as teachers. All right, but the core of my morning was always the reading, the writing, the listening, all the things around that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the when. When am I going to teach? And when I made my weekly plan, as you're going to see, I got so super specific. I didn't just say reading from 8:30 to 10:30. Nope, I did not do that. Let's go ahead and take a look at what I did. Okay, so as you can see, I really broke it down into chunks and I made sure that I had enough space to really talk about the what and the how in these boxes so that I could get it really straight in my mind. The what and the how. Here's the when, here's the what, and the how right in here, okay? So the first thing my students did when they came in the morning is we started our morning routine, and they always had some morning work to do. And so I would write that here, and I would always tie it to an objective that they had already learned, because this was independent time, all right? If you're looking for some really amazing independent morning work resources, there is a video that I will link in the description down below that I made a while back explaining all of that. Now, then we moved into our morning message time, and right here, I would write the objectives for the week. What letters are we working on if we're in kindergarten, or sight words, or writing, or whatever? Same with first grade. What sight words would my students be responsible for? Because before I even started this, I'm looking at my curriculum map that I made a while back, and I know exactly what my students need to know because of the assessment that I looked at before I wrote my curriculum map. Now, if you didn't write your curriculum map yet, grab your assessment from your teacher binder. Let's pull this out a little bit. If you don't have a teacher binder, why? Why do you not have a teacher binder? You need a teacher binder. So I grab my assessments for the week and I look at those assessments. Okay, so here's my reading. Oh, wow. They're going to need to know, a whole bunch of words that when they do the assessment, I wasn't told in the scope and sequence of the series that we're using for them to know that. Do they know how to read the word elephant? Do they know how to read the word animal? Do they know how to read the word quills? Do they know how to read the word desert? Here's one. I don't know if you can see that. Article. What first grader knows the word article? Not many. All right, so I would look at that and I would be like, okay, these are some words that my kids need to know. And so I am going to start putting them in my morning message, and I am going to start paying extra attention to those words during my morning message, okay? You're teaching with the end in mind. Ooh, these kids are going to need to know the word article and what that means, all right? So I'm integrating it into my lesson plan, into my morning message, and that's when I would do a ton of morning message stuff, all right? So here's my lesson plans again, and I would start writing those kinds of things in, especially for like my morning message, all right? And then so as you can see, I broke down my morning into little tiny sections, sometimes as little as 15 minutes, 25 minutes, very small chunks, because I wanted to make sure that during those times, I was teaching an objective, all right? So we have the when, we have the what, and now we need the how, the materials. And I would also write in the materials right there. And we're gonna get into how to organize those materials in just a second, okay? So the weekly plan template is the first step. Now, during my reading and during my math time, one of the most important parts of my day was to do small groups. And small group templates are something that when I would do my planning for my small groups, I would plan for Monday, and that's it. I wouldn't plan anything else, just Monday. Because in my small groups, as I instructed them, as I did assessments with them, that those plans changed. I used to write out a whole plan for the week, and then it was like, this is ridiculous, because it changes, because their skills change depending on how well I'm doing as a teacher and what their learning rate is. Sometimes, if you teach kindergarten or first grade, you know that something magical happens with kids sometimes. They come to school one day not being able to read, and then the next day, it's like something just like clicks in their head, and then all of a sudden, they're using their letter sounds. They're sounding out words. Their reading fluency just starts to just pick up and go crazy. And honestly, you can't plan for that. You don't know when that's going to happen. So my small group lesson plans, I did Monday, and as I was teaching through the week, I would write them as I went during that small group time. All right, let's take a look at that template. And actually that template I am going to link down below, and you can have that for a freebie, okay? You don't want my weekly lesson plan because that's just kind of what I did. And your day is not like mine, so okay. So here is what I would use for my small group instruction. As you can see, it's super simple. What I need is a spot to put my students in, my groups, and then over here, I am going to put what we're doing during those days. And again, I am just filling out Monday. With this group, usually I would start with my lowermost students that needed the most attention, and I would spend a ton of time with those guys. Wow. This person, this person, this person, this person still don't know these sight words. They still don't understand these diagraphs. They still don't have the fluency. They still don't, I'm constantly assessing those things, and I would target those in small group. Then the next group, oh, well, they know this, this, and this, but they don't know quite this. I usually had between 4 and 5 groups. My lower groups, usually between 3 and 4 students, usually not much past 4, because I wanted that time to be super intensive, and I wanted to give them as much one-on-one practice, small group practice as possible. And if possible, an even number so that they could practice with each other, okay, while I observed and did some assessing. Okay, so it's always kind of nice to have an even amount of kids in your small group, because then you can still pair them up and you can watch them and assess them as they go. And then my middle group, my middle skill students usually had the most students in it, somewhere between 4 and 6 students. I taught at a kidney table or on the floor, and honestly, if I can't reach them, then I don't want them at my table. All right, I want to be able to point and get to them each. So if I had over 6 kids, too scrunchy, not enough space, I can't get to them all, not enough practice time. But that middle group, I could have a little bit bigger group. And then my advanced kids, the ones that are in 1st grade and they're reading War and Peace. Not War and Peace, but I did have some reading Harry Potter and the whole entire series of like the Boxcar Children, right? So those are my kids that I'm doing other activities with. They're way past knowing their letters. They're on to some comprehension, some inference building, all those kinds of things, some writing. When you have small groups, you can get your kids writing right in front of you. Not only does it help to drive your instruction because they really show what they know during writing, but also that writing-reading connection is so important and so powerful. So small groups, you need a template. How far do you need to plan out? Monday, that's it. Do Monday, you're done, okay. Now, what do the students do while you're doing small groups? They're in stations or centers, whatever you want to say, and I have a template for that. Are you ready to go look at that? Here we go. Okay, here's my template for planning out my stations. And I would keep it super simple. First, I have to think, when am I going to do it during station time? What do they need to know? Well, here are the sight words. Here's what they need to do for writing. This is some word family stuff we're working on. And here's some additional skills. What kinds of activities, then we're getting into the what kinds of activities can they do at stations that are independent not extremely exciting, but pretty fun. You don't want them too fun, okay? You don't want it. One time I did like painting station and Play-Doh station and this station and that station, super fun. Guess what the kids at my reading table were doing the whole time? They were not watching me. They were wondering what was going on at the painting station. They were wondering what was going on at the puppet station. They were wondering what was going on at the home station, the block station, the Lego station. They're not looking at me. So your stations have to be they're very academic, but independent, all right? And if you need some ideas for that, I will put my independent early finisher games in the description below. I have a whole series of games. I think we're up to 64 now, that if you want to access those, just saying, working smart, not hard. No, not hard. Okay, so back to the stations. So I usually had anywhere from, well, let's see, how many do I have here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12 stations, because what my goal was to put out a whole bunch of stations and then have kids rotate through. And sometimes they knew how to set them up. They knew how to take them down and put them away. That was part of when I trained my kids how to do stations, because I don't need more work. They do. So this was a very independent time. They knew what to do on those. And maybe I'll do a video on that sometime. If you want a video on that, I want a video on building stations down in the comments below. We'll see what we can do for you. So anyway, here I would write the objective in the listening and then the materials. A lot of times for listening, I would have like a book on CD or something like that. And did they have headphones? No. They were instructed how to put the CD in, how to open the book, how to sit side by side. This is pre-COVID. How to sit side by side, but I usually had multiple books, and turn on the CD ever so lightly so they could hear it, but I could not. Could kindergartners do it? Yes. Yes, they could. All right. Same with letter work, word work. They knew what to do and how to do it for stations. Okay. So that's what they're doing during your small group time. You got 3 templates. The weekly template, very important for a big picture. Second one, small group template. Remember, you're just filling out Monday. And then stations. With my stations, honestly, sometimes I would do 2 weeks of those stations. So it was only every other 2 weeks that I was planning and putting things in the stations. Because remember, those stations need to be independent. If they need to revisit some of those stations, it's fine. It's fine. So, as I promised, some teacher hacks on getting organized. What I would do when I was done putting my lesson plans together, I had a system. Let me grab it for you. Here's my system. Now, I know it looks a mess, and I know it looks kind of crazy, but I'm telling you what, it worked for me, and it just might work for you. Whenever I did something in my class, I had a folder for it according to the week. Any art projects we did, any charts that we did, anything at all, any games, any templates that I needed, I would just, when I was done with it, I would shove it into the week that I had. Then the next year, when I was planning, I would be like, oh, hey, I remember we did this in science. That was about the seasons, and we did this, that, and the other thing. Oh, yeah, we talked about desert animals back then, and we did this chart, and these are the activities we did with it. This was critical then when I was planning for the week ahead that I was on, because I could just take it out and go, oh, yep, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. So nice. And what's also great about this is that it's easy to share with your teacher friends. A lot of times we would get together and we would say, hey, we're doing this. What do you have to do this? What do you have to do this? My kids still aren't understanding LY words. What can I do? Oh, and so my friend Renee says, oh, well, I have this really great activity on LY. My kids got it 3 weeks ago. Oh my goodness, let me try it. Shebang, it works so good. Okay, so this is a great way. So if you haven't started a crate system, you need to start a crate system. So you pull the stuff out and then you use a clip. Crates, clips, and we're going to get to the next C in a second. So whatever I would pull out of here, I would have a Monday clip, a Tuesday clip, a Thursday clip, blah, 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 and I would clip all my printables together and I would lay them out so that when I went to the copy machine, then I could just simply copy and then I would put them all back, ka-chunk, on my clip, and then I would put them into the third C, which is the cubby. And when I planned during the week, I used 5 cubbies. I put them in a shelf. I would stack these up because in kindergarten and first grade, most of the things that you're doing aren't going to fit into a little, they're not going to fit into something like this, at least how I taught. You can't put everything that you're going to do in a Monday folder like this and then cram it back into the shelf. It's just not going to work. Many times I would just have this overflowing with stuff because if we were doing an art project or a big book or a writing center or this or that or the other thing, I would just put all of my Monday stuff in here. Now, I usually overplanned. I was a super overplanner. So if I didn't get something done from one day, I would put it into the cubby for the next day. So I would just stack these up. All right, five high. And then sometimes I could use even leftover materials if my students needed it into the next week. And if not, sometimes I would stuff it in my crate. I have things like, okay, here's a perfect example. Here's a little reader thing that I thought my kindergartners or my first graders, this would be a first grade activity, could do the first week. And so when it came time to maybe use this activity, guess what? We didn't get to it either because they were too advanced for that, or that this just wasn't meeting their need. But I had already prepped it, ka-chunk. It goes into, guess what, week 2, because maybe next year, maybe my students are going to need this and I will have it already ready to go in week 2. And I can just go, oh yeah, Monday, got it, done. If you found today's video on lesson planning helpful, make sure you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Also, make sure you get those templates. Now, the weekly one's probably not going to help you, but the one that has the small group and the stations, go ahead and go to the bottom into the description. I also hope you found the little hacks of the clip, the crate, and the cubby, say that 10 times fast, effective as well for your classroom. My name is Angie, and remember, the creator of the universe loves you, and I think you're pretty amazing too. I will see you next time. We're going to talk more about lesson plans because we're not done yet. Okay, talk to you later. Bye-bye.